Hi, everybody. Welcome to API Days 2023. We're really excited to be here today to talk to you about the state of IT sustainability, with a focus on the power of data being key in reducing your carbon emissions. Because to accelerate climate action, we have everything that we need. It's in the data. My name is Kayleigh Potter. I've been working in climate technology since 2019, and I'm now working for a startup called Sweep. I'm here today with my colleague and friend, Adam. Adam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, so I'm Adam Finch. I'm an expert in carbon and ESG. I've spent 4 years working in climate tech. So my role at Sweep is as a solutions engineer, and I help our clients find the solution to their challenges in our platform.
Awesome, thanks, Adam. And then my role at Sweep, I work with clients predominantly here in the UK who are looking to improve how they measure and ultimately reduce their carbon emissions. And who is Sweep, you might say? So Sweep are Europe's leading carbon management and ESG platform. We're also a B Corp, which really aligned to me when I was looking for my next role, really aligned with my purpose and my values. We're also an innovative startup, and collectively our founders have decades of experience in building really powerful data platforms. And now they've invested all that knowledge into Sweep, where business intelligence meets carbon and ESG. And we get to work with really exciting customers of all scale, all sizes, all levels of maturity, including brands you might have heard of like L'Oreal and SSE. Now, when we think about the state of IT sustainability, the kind of headline banner topic for today, there's been a real transformation in the technology landscape in the last few years. It's been really accelerating in line with the ever-changing regulations and business requirements. My own personal journey in this began back in 2018 when I had the epiphany that my career was going to be defined by sustainability. Then in 2019, my employer at the time, they launched a carbon calculator tool. And, they could handle kind of scope 1 and 2 emissions. So these are all of the emissions that are in your direct control. So, the way that you power your office and your factories, or the fuels that you're putting into your fleet, that kind of thing. And customers at the time, potentially they were working on Excel spreadsheets. They could kind of handle this data. But the really forward-thinking ones and the innovative ones, they were leaning towards technology and a platform approach to be able to tackle scope 3 emissions. So these are all of the ones that your business directly touches. And this is a bigger challenge in 2 different ways. Number one, the scale of this data. So, typically your scope 1 and 2 emissions, the clients that we're working with at Sweep, maybe that makes up about 10% of your business emissions. And then the other 90%, sometimes more, will sit in that scope 3, And so when you start thinking about the amount of data that you have to pull together, it's considerably more. Now, it's not just the scale, it's also where these data sets sit that's a challenge. Because a lot of this data is not your data. It's through your purchased goods and services. So it's your supplier data, or it's the way that your employees are working and commuting. So you need to connect with them. And there's a new real theme about collaboration that's coming to the forefront that makes pulling together all these complex data sets and wrangling all this tricky data together, a really powerful way to solve the challenge. Well, I'm really pleased to say that technology has caught up with these ever-changing regulations and business demands. And now there are a sea of different carbon management platforms out there, and we are really proud to be a part of Sweep. The whole foundation of Sweep is about really simplifying the complex and steering data-driven decision-making. So Adam, I touched on this feels like a real data challenge. Where does the data sit? How do we begin to approach this?
Yeah, so I think typically when we're working with clients, we are dealing with 2 key scenarios. So the first one is connecting large data sets, and this is the processing of large utility or logistics databases into one consolidated view. The other, and which is becoming more prevalent, is the need to build greater stakeholder engagement and collaboration in the sustainability journey. So this is becoming increasingly important. So I'm just going to start on kind of connecting these large data sets, and obviously it's a big focus of any of our clients that are working in this field. The number one requirement we see is that, you know, people really want the ability to consolidate and process their data in a flexible way from multiple systems, and crucially without requiring excessive development. So the upside of this type of automated footprint calculation is super clear. You know, being able to have that complete automated calculation gives you a lot of energy efficiency savings and time. But it's worth considering a few things when you're doing this, and one of those is the quality of the footprint that comes out of this process. And put simply, in this regard, I think you want a scenario where your more efficient data collection doesn't come at the cost of inaccurate reporting. So with this in mind, you know, we see a lot of key drivers within our client base when it comes to system integration and the platform they're looking for in delivering this. And the key things that they are really looking for is the ability to clearly track data points from upload all the way through the platform to the outputs. The ability to evidence methodology and having a strong methodological base, normally aligning to greenhouse gas protocol. And also, once the data is in the platform, it's coming from all these different places, you need the ability to measure the data quality behind these footprint calculations. So, I mean, when we look at who this is important for, I think any organization that has audit requirements for their carbon footprint should really be thinking about, yes, I want to automate this process, but also I need to maintain the integrity of my calculations. On the flip side, when we start thinking about, you know, stakeholder engagement, the driver for this really comes from the fact that not all data resides in a system. So Kayleigh mentioned earlier the regulation and frameworks in this space that are pushing companies towards tracking data across their supply chain, and not just for, you know, the activities that they're directly influencing. So in this regard, a platform can be really useful in managing this supplier engagement management effectively. At a basic level, this might involve delivering high-level carbon footprint requests to different suppliers, but we're seeing more and more complex use cases around this where, you know, potentially our clients are requesting the reduction targets of their different suppliers so they can incorporate that within their forecasting. I think whatever the level of supplier engagement or any type of engagement that you're looking to do, the number one area to focus on is having a data request which is really user-friendly. And, you know, what we've seen over recent times is sweep clients having a real benefit in results when you think about the data quality that they're receiving and the response rate of different people that they're engaging with, because they've moved away from this clunky kind of Excel-based engagement and they're moving more towards, you know, a streamlined approach through a system. So, you know, with this in mind, regardless of the stakeholder you're trying to engage with, having access to that powerful survey functionality that sits in a lot of data platforms is a real advantage of moving towards this way of managing your carbon footprint.
And I can think of an example in the Sweep customers, Swisscom. So Swisscom, Switzerland's largest telco, and they actually won the world's most sustainable telecommunications company more than once. So sustainability is really a key part of their values. Now, before working with us, they were trying to do just that. They were managing their supplier base and collecting this data using Excel and email. And this was no small task. They were managing over 4,000 suppliers that way. Now, if you just take a moment and think about the complexity of that project, of the risk of human error as you're consolidating that data back together, you know, and just the mundane task of managing 4,000 suppliers over email. I mean, that's not why anybody signs up for a role as in an ESG team, is it now? But ultimately, they wanted to move to a platform approach because they saw a real way to streamline this. Instead, they were using these surveys that Adam touched on, the survey capability, to be able to easily track and easily see with a traffic light system, you know, which suppliers had responded, which ones needed a little nudge to share that data across. And you could also set alerts. So as that data is coming in, if it looks glaringly wrong, if there's an extra zero, if it's wildly different from the last report, you know, you can set those flags so that this erroneous data isn't making it into your carbon footprint measurement. But not only did they see, you know, these benefits in the efficiency of the process, but by pulling together all of that data into a platform, they were able to identify and reduce 1 million tons of CO2e. You know, just kind of let that sink in, like 1 million tons of emissions, 4,000 suppliers. These seem like really big numbers, and maybe for people out there who are just getting started, this could be a little bit intimidating. You know, for those who are looking to begin that journey and want to achieve the same things with their business, Adam, what advice would you give them to get started?
Yeah, so I think, you know, if this is new to you, you've got a great opportunity, and that is to get your process right from the beginning. On the flip side, if you've already dipped your toe in the water with regards to footprinting that you've done already, my message is that with a platform, there's always likely to be room for improvement with the types of processes you're delivering, and particularly around the efficiency in which you bring outputs from that. Broadly speaking, I think the benefits of using any type of SaaS platform are really well versed. So, you know, when you think about the greater autonomy that's then available to different organizations, the associated financial savings, and the scalability of solutions to deal with large tasks, that's super clear. But, you know, what I think is more interesting is to talk about how to choose the right platform. So, you know, there's lots of options out there. And I think the first thing you need to bear in mind is that every company is also very different as well. So looking around at different sectors, different ways of working, it's clear that a lot of companies have a different organizational structure, but also when we're speaking technically, different reporting requirements that might come from specific regulation or sector-specific organizations. As such, you know, procuring a platform which can be customized to your specific requirements ensures that you have, you know, basically a round peg for a round hole, and you're not in a scenario where you're trying to adjust your way of working to quite a rigid platform. In addition, you know, we've referenced a few times in this conversation already how quickly the landscape's changing when you look at sustainability as a whole. So as an organization, you can be sure that year on year, your requirements are set to change and grow. So, you know, the issues you're dealing with today are going to be vastly different in 3-5 years' time. And you need a platform which is, you know, reflecting that change. So, I mean, whenever you're moving into this kind of decision making, it's really important to think of a platform as a long-term investment. And with any long-term investment, you need the confidence that you're, you know, looking at a stable solution that's going to be there, not just for the next year or so, but into the future. And in addition, you're investing in an innovative partner that has the means and the expertise to actively develop in line with, you know, the changes in the sector, but also the requirements that you have as an organization.
So future-proof, you might say, I guess. Yeah, okay, so let's fast forward, shall we? Let's jump forward, let's say 6 months, right? We've procured a platform. We've wrangled all these difficult data sets together, you know, really streamlined that process. We've got a view of our carbon footprint. You know, we've saved so much time in that measuring process. Like our customers report a 45% time saving, which is incredible and frees up the team to go and deliver on other outputs. So if we were to think about those outputs, what would we include in that?
Yeah, you're right. So I think, when sustainability is new to your company, you feel like you just kind of need to get started. You just need to access some data, but it's always really key to have these outputs in mind whenever you're starting your process, because I think if you start your process with the aim of delivering these key outputs, then you're going to align everything towards the key goals. And some of these in the sector are, maybe you're moving towards a specific audit that's coming up. Maybe your organization has set net zero reduction targets that, potentially you're not quite sure how you're going to move towards that. And you need to be able to plan around that. Or it might just be that you've got a specific disclosure that you need to prepare for. Ultimately, whenever we look at, those kind of three examples that I just gave, public disclosures, there's an area of added scrutiny to prove your claims. And, essentially, and being very frank about it, if companies are unable to prove, some of the things that they're stating, it just creates risk of greenwashing accusations. And, I think that's a very, very well-known area. With this in mind, really laying the groundwork now for your carbon management system will support you in, when you're delivering these public disclosures, being able to evidence those in a really clear way, or when you are building out your strategy to meet your reduction targets, again, having a detailed view of how to get there, how to track that, and not just looking at that on a yearly basis, but much more frequently. And obviously, there's a lot of time savings with regards to delivering things like audits. So, broadly speaking, the work occurs, at that initial stage, but 1, 2, 3 years down the line, you're going to see a lot of benefit in when you need to come around to making these strategic decisions or public disclosures, because you'll have that really key base behind you.
Thank you, Adam. So yeah, the regulation is coming, right? And this is just going to become more and more part of business as usual. Managing all this data on Excel used to be okay, but the fact is that it's just not anymore. But that's okay, because technology has caught up, the data is in front of us, and you just need the right solution to be able to scale your impact. Now, we are slightly biased, we believe that Sweep is that right solution, but ultimately a platform approach really must be considered. Thanks, Adam, for your time today. Thank you for listening. We would love to connect with you and understand a little bit more about your specific use case. So please do reach out. Thanks so much.